A memory of a radiant woman surfaces, a pivotal meeting from the past. But now the scene shifts to a mundane classroom lecture, where a student reflects on the school's peace amid a chaotic world of black gates. He lets out a sigh, his thoughts drifting to a classmate nearby, feeling trapped by the mundane routine of being just a high school student. And the clock on the wall ticks away the minutes, marking the slow passage of time, when suddenly an emergency alert shatters the calm. Phones across the classroom light up, sending a wave of panic through the students, and their faces fill with disbelief and shock at the message they have all received. This teacher desperately tries to maintain order, urging everyone to stay calm. But our boy stares at his own screen, his expression frozen in horror. This message is clear and terrifying. A black gate has opened in the area. A chilling realization dawns on him as he realizes the gate is near his own home. This teacher immediately initiates evacuation protocols, directing students to the shelter. But the student is frozen, his mind racing with a different fear. As he watches a live feed showing two people fleeing, one of them is his mother. He remembers her at her job, always working hard with a gentle smile, serving customers and providing for their family day after day. A simple, peaceful moment from a life now under immediate threat. Then her expression shifts, a sudden sound catching her attention. Back in the present, huddled with his classmates, he knows the situation is dire. Because in this world, when monsters appear, someone has to fight them, and there are special individuals who take on that dangerous role. A news report confirms the busters are already on the scene to handle the threat. But time is running out, and every passing minute feels like an eternity. This time is 4:23 p.m. A critical moment is approaching. An alert suddenly flashes across the screen, warning that a giant monster is emerging from the gate. This student is frozen in disbelief. As chaos erupts in the streets with people screaming in terror, fleeing from a shadowy beast that has appeared, he cannot comprehend why this is happening now. Watching a live news report of the destruction, and in the middle of the danger, he sees his own mother. Back in the school assembly, students are confused by the news, but our boy stands up, his mind racing. A single, desperate thought cuts through the noise. Mom. He bolts from his seat, desperate to get outside, but a classmate grabs him, trying to hold him back. This kid struggles, pleading to be let through, shoving his phone forward to show the other student, revealing his mother is trapped near the black gate. This classmate sees the truth and finally relents, letting him go with a solemn nod of acceptance. Our boy sprints through the halls, praying his mother is safe. Meanwhile, at the gate, hunters are locked in a fierce battle with monsters, and he runs through the war zone, gasping for breath. He finally arrives, wondering why she did not escape, remembering her kind smile and selfless nature. Exhausted, he stops in the empty street, his hand clenching into a fist. This MC desperately calls out for his mother, his face filled with panic. Running frantically through the eerily empty city streets, he suddenly stops, spotting a familiar teddy bear keychain on the ground. And as he picks up the phone, a horrifying realization dawns on him. He stands alone in the street, staring at the screen in disbelief, cautiously peering around the corner of a nearby building. This reflection in his eye reveals a terrible sight, his mother on the ground. His hand trembles as he reaches towards the dark stain on the pavement. Collapsing to his knees beside his mother's still form, suddenly a single drop of liquid lands on his head from above. Tears stream down his face as he looks up in absolute terror. A monstrous creature with glowing red eyes looms over the scene, and he can only stare, frozen in shock at the impossible sight. He always believed these kinds of events had nothing to do with him. But this creature has now planted despair and fear inside him, and a burning hatred begins to take root in his heart. This beast casually tosses another victim aside like a discarded toy, its massive limb crashing down, narrowly missing the grieving boy. Through his tears, a silent vow of vengeance forms in his mind. This creature reveals its horrifying form, attacking a nearby building. He barely dodges a powerful energy blast that shatters the ground, this force of the impact sending him stumbling backward in shock. With no other choice, he turns and flees down the empty street. He pants for breath, the terror of the moment overwhelming him. But then his fear hardens into grim determination. Thrown back by the shockwave, our boy struggles to his feet. As a monstrous purple beast towers over the entire street, he can only watch in horror as the battle rages on. But then 3 elite fighters known as Busters arrive on the scene, unleashing a coordinated assault to stop the creature's rampage. From a distance, he is completely stunned by their power. Realizing he is nowhere near the level of these true heroes, a deep sense of powerlessness washes over him, remembering his childhood dream of becoming a buster, a dream he believed was impossible due to his lack of talent. Knowing his low magical power made him a laughingstock, but watching them fight ignites a new resolve within him. He vows to become strong enough to protect others. Meanwhile, the giant beast grows tired of the buster's attacks, unleashing a devastating energy beam from its mouth, and our boy's determination hardens into a grim focus as he prepares to rejoin the fight despite the danger. But the creature's overwhelming power is still too much. He is suddenly reminded of a smiling, pink-haired woman, compelling him to rush through the debris towards something. And as he looks over a broken slab of concrete, he freezes, his eyes widening in complete and utter disbelief. A voice seems to echo in the aftermath. For there on the ground lays the same pink-haired warrior defeated. She seems to be unconscious, her battle now over. This pink-haired warrior lies defeated, her eyes filled with a quiet sorrow. And our boy's eyes widen in sheer panic at the sight of the fallen hero. He stumbles upon her, completely stunned by her presence. As he notices her pointed ears and striking purple eyes, Then he sees the strange purple liquid dripping from her wound. A horrifying realization dawning on him that she is not human. She whimpers in pain, clutching her leg as he watches in shock, and the dark, viscous liquid pools on the ground beneath her. He cannot process it. A monster is suffering right in front of him, clutching her injured knee with a face contorted in agony. Her pained expression makes him hesitate for a moment, wondering why this creature seems afraid of someone as weak as him. But his grief returns, hardening his resolve. Monsters are his mother's enemies. He steels himself, ready to act on his newfound vow of vengeance, but her terrified, tear-streaked face gives him pause. She continues to whimper, clearly in pain and posing no threat. So he turns his back, choosing to walk away from the scene. He berates himself for his weakness, for running away yet again. But leaving a wounded being to their fate does not sit right with him. A memory of a simpler, happier time surfaces in his mind, remembering his mother's warm smile as she welcomed him home, calling him Toru. Back in the present, Toru sighs, the weight of his indecision crushing him, and he slams his fist down in pure, unadulterated frustration, startling the injured girl as he suddenly reappears before her. He stands over her with a new look in his eyes, his fear replaced by something else entirely. He carefully folds a piece of cloth in his hands. As the fallen warrior questions what she is even doing here, his mind flashes back to the monster that killed his mother, and he gently ties a makeshift bandage around the warrior's leg. She looks up, warning him that it is too dangerous to stay, but he simply reaches out his hand, urging her to come with him. He insists she does not understand the situation, their hands slowly reaching for one another in the hazy light, finally clasping in a moment of connection. His eyes widen for a second in surprise, before a gentle, determined smile forms on his face. He pulls her up from the rubble, helping her to her feet, and they stand together amidst the destruction. She realizes this fateful encounter will change both their destinies. This scene shifts, showing him hiding behind a large rock in fear, his eye wide with terror as he remembers the moment, seeing the beautiful warrior sitting alone in the wasteland. Time passes and we see a quiet apartment building at sunset. Our boy Toru walks home, exhausted from another day at school, but as he opens his door, he is tackled in a surprise hug. It is the pink-haired warrior Sarah who now lives with him. He explains that she is a monster from another world whom he helped, and since that day she has grown incredibly attached to him. Toru tells her to move aside so he can prepare dinner, recalling how she was once wary but can now speak his language. In the quiet of his home, Toru decides it is finally time to ask some questions. Asking the pink-haired girl Sarah how she can speak his language, he sets his bag down, the atmosphere shifting to something more personal. As she explains her kind does not eat humans, unlike orcs or vampires, Toru then asks a more serious question, how she ended up in his world. This question catches Sarah completely off guard, leaving her flustered. For now, they share a hot meal, a moment of peace in the chaos. Toru explains that with no guardian, he should be living with relatives, but he cannot take Sarah with him to a care facility. He remembers begging his landlord to let him continue living here alone, even though paying the rent will be a huge burden for a high school student. His only solution is to become a buster and earn money to survive. He turns to Sarah, getting her attention while she eats, and her happy expression quickly turns to one of surprise, as he asks if she even knows what a buster is. After a moment's thought, she smiles and fully supports his decision, standing up to declare her own hatred for monsters who attack humans, but she hates monsters who would dare to hurt Toru even more. A small smile appears on his face, relieved to have her on his side. He tells Sarah she can take a bath, pointing out where the pajamas are, and she happily rushes off to the bathroom. She finds a cute set of strawberry pajamas and decides to wear them, dropping her towel as she prepares to step into the tub, and she sinks into the warm water with a sigh of pure bliss. This world is so much nicer than her own, which was filled with terrifying monsters. This pink-haired girl remembers her past, reaching out to her former comrades, but now she relaxes in a bath, lost in thought, her eyes filled with a quiet resolve to never go back, wanting to live here with a boy named Toru forever. This next morning, the sun shines on their quiet home. As Toru gets ready to leave, she asks if he is skipping school, and he explains he is heading to the Buster Association instead. She comically misunderstands, asking if the association is something tasty, leaving Toru completely baffled by her strange question. Her eyes sparkle with excitement as he just agrees and prepares to go. But he knows he cannot take a monster like Sarah to the headquarters. He closes the door behind him, leaving her to wave goodbye. On the train, Toru feels a wave of nervousness about his first visit, stepping off and wondering about his magical power, hoping desperately that it has not dropped any further. He passes through the station gates, his mind consumed with worry about the retest, his face tense with anxiety as he looks up, finally standing inside the massive, intimidating building. He approaches the reception desk, unsure of what to say, his hand clutching his hoodie as he hesitates to speak. A flashback explains that since Black Gates appeared, a new reality of portals and monsters emerged, forcing the government to test every child for magical power, but those with low levels were dismissed as having no potential. Back in the present, Toru is stunned by the sheer size of the headquarters. A red-haired staff member finally calls him forward for the magic power inspection, and Toru nervously asks her to take care of him during the test, leading him through a door marked simply as the inspection room, where he is seated in a high-tech chair waiting for the test to begin. This staff explains they are taking measurements and the room will go dark for a moment. And just as they said, the overhead lights suddenly shut off. In what feels like an instant, the test is already finished. and the red-haired woman re-enters the room to deliver the results. She offers a polite but somber smile, a hint of pity in her eyes, delivering the devastating news that his magic power is unfortunately F-rank. His shoulders slump as he quietly accepts the crushing reality of his level, though a part of him admits he was expecting this outcome all along. He knows that magical power is something a person is born with, a fixed trait that does not just go up or down on a whim. Despite the disappointment, his eyes harden with resolve as he accepts the facts. Acknowledging how reckless it is for an F-rank to even try to become a buster, a memory surfaces of his father who was also a low-rank buster, unable to accomplish much. Until one day he left for a gate and simply never returned. He recalls his mother's grief and her desperate plea for him to never become a buster, but now with the vivid memory of his mother's death still fresh in his mind, a dark resolve fills him, fueled by loss and a burning need for vengeance. His eyes snap open, filled with an unshakable determination, and he declares to the stunned staff member that he absolutely will not withdraw. Seeing his resolve, she leads him toward a massive, ornate set of doors, stepping into a grand, cathedral-like hall that stretches on into the distance. He is taken aback by the sheer scale of the testing facility, and his eyes fall upon a rack of available weapons, deciding to go with a standard, reliable longsword for the test. This practical exam to confirm his aptitude is about to begin. As a vicious, red-skinned monster with sharp teeth peeks from the shadows, and Toru's face contorts in pure, unadulterated terror. He leaps into the air, charging toward the creature in the vast arena, but the monster is quick, sliding across the floor to meet him, and Toru mirrors the move, bracing for the inevitable clash. He grits his teeth in frustration, already feeling outmatched. His confidence shattering as panic begins to set in, and in a flurry of motion he is completely overwhelmed by the monster's assault. Thrown to the ground, he questions why he is so utterly weak, his mind reeling from the feeling of complete powerlessness. As the creature raises its club, he thinks about what happens if he fails. Terrified, the association will discover his secret about Sarah, because even though she is a monster, she is a good person who needs him. A single thought cuts through his fear: I do not want my family to get hurt anymore. With newfound determination, he catches the monster's club with his bare hand, leaving the creature stunned by his sudden burst of strength. Even the red-haired examiner watches in disbelief from the sidelines. As Toru kicks the monster back and clenches his fist, ready for round two, his resolve is absolute. He simply cannot give up now. And the monster actually starts to sweat, caught off guard by his change in spirit. A small red monster charges forward, its club lying uselessly on the ground. But in the next moment, the creature lies defeated in a pool of its own blood. Toru wipes his brow, letting out a sigh of relief, a small cut on his face. This red-haired receptionist gives him a warm, approving smile, and he walks out of the testing area, realizing he actually passed. Now outside, he decides to buy some snacks for Sarah before heading home. But as he walks, a sudden feeling makes him pause, and he pulls out his phone to see an incoming email. He is completely shocked that a job offer has arrived so quickly. This message includes a map showing a nearby location he can handle, and he accepts the D-rank dungeon extermination mission without hesitation. He runs to the meeting point, explaining he was late renting a weapon. Toru arrives out of breath, apologizing to the waiting team of busters. This muscular team leader turns to him, asking for his name, and he introduces himself as Sejima Toru. This leader checks his phone, seemingly verifying Toru's information, then introduces himself as Matsuda, the leader of the extermination team. Matsuda gives him a firm handshake, welcoming the rookie to the team, then rallies everyone to enter the gate with a confident shout. As the group moves forward, another member tells Toru to keep up. While a blonde-haired man scoffs at his rented sword, they stand before the glowing portal, a dungeon filled with monsters, and Toru grips his weapon, nervously scanning the area for a threat. Suddenly, shadowy monsters leap down from above, ready to attack, and the blonde-haired buster immediately unleashes a powerful fire spell. Toru stands in an icy cavern, impressed by the other busters' skills. Suddenly, a massive orc lets out a terrifying roar before him, and he barely manages to block its powerful downward strike. He grits his teeth, realizing this creature is incredibly strong, far more powerful than the weak goblin he faced at the association. This monster raises its massive club, preparing another brutal attack, forcing Toru to leap back to avoid the devastating blow. He stares at the shattered ground, knowing a direct hit means instant death. But his fear gives way to a new determination, and he steels himself, vowing that he will win this fight. He remembers that his teammates are also fighting their own battles, but in this moment he knows he has to face this threat alone. This orc swings its club with terrifying speed and force, and Toru dodges just in time as ice shards fly everywhere. He uses the momentum to run up the creature's arm, sword ready. Wiping sweat from his brow, he breathes a sigh of relief, thinking he has won. This beast lies motionless on the ground, seemingly defeated, but it suddenly lunges forward for a surprise attack from behind. When a blast of fire incinerates its arm and Toru sees it was still moving, a silver-haired man appears, scolding the rookie for not finishing it off. He warns Toru that without his help, the orc would have crushed his head. They both stare at the smoldering remains of the monster. This veteran buster tells him to get up, saying their work here is done. Toru quickly stammers out a thank you for saving his life. Watching the man leave, surprised that he is actually a decent person. This team presses forward through the icy dungeon, approaching a massive gate. As they sense a magic concentration far stronger than a D-rank gate should have, A bead of sweat rolls down Toru's face as he realizes what lies ahead the boss. Matsuda rallies the team, asking if everyone is prepared to enter the boss room. And with grim determination, the entire party confirms they are ready for the fight. This leader gives a firm nod, acknowledging their resolve. He puts his shoulder to the door, slowly pushing the heavy gate open. As the door opens, Matsuda yells for everyone to charge in and attack at once, revealing a massive blue-skinned beast that roars, towering over the team. Matsuda takes the lead, unleashing a powerful slash with his glowing sword. But the monster effortlessly parries the blow, barely flinching from their attacks. This leader is already down as the team's healer rushes to his side. Toru watches in disbelief, realizing their coordinated assault was completely useless. He decides on a new plan, attempting to circle around for a rear attack. But the creature is too fast, swinging its massive club in a deadly arc, and Toru grits his teeth, bracing for an impact he knows he cannot survive. This silver-haired mage scoffs at the rookie's recklessness, preparing a fire spell. In that split second, a single thought flashes through Toru's mind: I am going to die. His vision fades to black as the blow connects. This next thing he sees is the bright sun shining on a hospital building. He wakes up bandaged and confused, wondering where he is, when his eyes snap wide with a jolt of memory. He bolts upright, shouting that he has to go back and fight the boss. But Matsuda is sitting right there, calmly watching over him in the hospital room. Matsuda explains that after Toru fell, the team managed to defeat the boss without him. This blonde-haired buster looks down, admitting they lost one person on the mission, and a bandaged Toru looks up in shock, completely confused. Now in a hospital bed, he asks his teammate who it was they lost. This man explains it was Yamada-san, their team's kind-hearted healer. Recalling how she would recklessly rush to heal anyone who was injured, he tells Toru not to worry, as this is a harsh reality for all busters. Toru looks down, quietly accepting the grim truth of his new profession. Sometime later, the sun sets over Toru's quiet apartment building, and he slowly opens the door, finally home from the hospital. Sarah immediately greets him at the door, happy that he is back, but she freezes when she sees him covered in bandages. Her eyes widen in concern as she asks what happened to him, but Toru just brushes it off, saying it is nothing to worry about. She looks at him with deep worry, whispering his name. This next day, under a clear blue sky, a new resolve is formed. Toru prepares to leave for another mission, his sword on his back, but Sarah calls out to him, her voice filled with apprehension. He turns around, asking her what is wrong now, and she grabs his arm, begging him to take her to the dungeon with him. His answer is an immediate and resounding no way, as he insists he cannot take her to such a dangerous place. With tears in her eyes, she says she cannot stand watching him get hurt anymore. Leaving Toru speechless, realizing how much this is troubling her, he thinks for a moment, wondering if there is any possible way, but he lets out a sigh, still refusing her desperate request. He offers to buy her snacks, but Sarah says they will not be tasty. Her expression suddenly turning dark and intense, leaving him confused, because snacks taste bad when he comes home injured from a fight. Despite her worry, she promises to support him no matter what, but Toru tells her to run away if he is ever in danger, even if it means leaving him. She puffs out her cheeks, completely flustered by his selfless command. This next day, they walk through the city together, hand in hand. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out Toru's name from behind him, and he turns to see Matsuda and Hayama from his previous mission. Hayama playfully warns him that pushing himself too hard could get him killed, but Toru just snaps back, telling the veteran he already knows that. Matsuda's gaze shifts, his attention drawn to the girl beside Toru, and he asks our boy who his mysterious new companion is. Toru quickly lies, saying she is a friend who wants to observe busters. This scene changes as the team ventures into a lush forest inside a gate. Toru grips his sword, his face a mask of grim determination. A frog monster's tongue lashes out, slicing his arm and drawing blood. Sarah screams his name in terror as Hayama yells at him for his mistake. Toru apologizes while the blonde buster unleashes a blast of fire. Sarah rushes to his side, asking to see the deep cut on his arm, and a brilliant green light erupts from her hands as she touches him. He stares in utter shock, realizing she is using some kind of light magic. As the deep gash on his arm heals completely in an instant, she apologizes for hiding her power, admitting she was mocked for it before. Toru thinks if she was not a monster, she could be a buster, fueling his own resolve. Toru looks up in shock, his sword at the ready as Sarah stands behind him. He screams for Sarah to get back, putting himself between her and the danger. This team stands together in the vast, empty cavern, the mission seemingly over. Matsuda looks back, commenting that they have managed to clear the area somehow, but the blonde-haired buster gives Toru a cold, almost dismissive look. Suddenly, a large crack splinters across the cavern wall with a loud noise. This blonde buster stops in his tracks, sensing a change in the air, and he points out to the others that wind is blowing from up ahead. This rest of the team turns, confused by the sudden breeze inside the dungeon. So the blonde buster decides to investigate, unleashing a blast of fire magic. This spell slams into the cracked wall in a massive, fiery explosion, revealing a hidden, ornate doorway behind the settling dust. Toru recalls the brutal struggle, fighting with help from Matsuda and Hayama, and with Sarah's healing magic, they defeated all the attacking monsters. A title card explains they have finally reached the boss room. They step into a colossal chamber filled with glowing blue crystals. And Toru looks up in awe, stunned by the sheer scale of the room. Hayama speculates the master of this room must be an enormous foe, when a sudden heavy thud shakes the entire chamber from below. This team looks around in panic, trying to pinpoint the source of the sound, and Matsuda screams for everyone to scatter as the ground begins to crack. A massive shockwave erupts, sending the busters flying through the air. Sarah cries out as she is hit by falling debris, and Toru shouts her name, catching her as his face fills with shock and concern. As a terrifying, glowing red eye opens in the darkness, this massive creature's arm tenses, ready to strike, and a monstrous cyclops looms over the team, its club raised for a devastating blow. This team identifies the beast as a cyclops, stunned by its immense power, and Matsuda screams for Toru to hide Sarah behind a pillar immediately, as a pained groan echoes through the chamber. This monster lets out a low hiss, its massive form dominating the room. Matsuda identifies it as a power-type fighter, warning everyone to maintain distance, but the blonde-haired buster scoffs, confident that big guys are always slow, and he recklessly charges forward, convinced that speed will win them the fight. But the Cyclops moves with blinding speed, its arm a blur of motion, as the cocky buster shouts for a bigger reward, underestimating the danger he is in. In an instant, he is caught by the monster's devastating attack, his overconfidence shattering as he realizes his fatal mistake, and the Cyclops snatches him from the air, crushing him in its powerful grip. This rest of the team can only watch in absolute horror, as blood drips from the monster's clenched fist. Toru is stunned, realizing the creature somehow teleported instantly, and Sarah watches from her hiding spot, whispering his name in fear. This monster immediately turns its attention to another buster, swinging its club, sending the man flying across the room with a terrified scream. Matsuda rushes to his fallen comrade's side, asking if he is okay, but the injured buster can only groan, a deep gash on his face. Matsuda grits his teeth in frustration, cursing their impossible situation, when suddenly a blur of motion cuts through the chaos, as the Cyclops appears before Hiyama and Toru, and our boy screams for his leader. Toru lets out a desperate battle cry, charging forward with his sword held high, but the massive stone golem sends him flying with a single devastating punch, and as Toru hits the ground, Hiyama prepares to unleash a powerful fire spell, blasting the monster's eye with everything he has, screaming in defiance. This beast responds by stomping the ground, shattering the floor with immense force, and Toru can only watch in utter disbelief at its overwhelming power. Seeing his entire team scattered and defeated across the cold stone floor, and he realizes that even the veteran buster Hiyama has been taken down. Now facing a smaller goblin-like creature, he knows he has to fight alone, but his face is a mask of pure terror, sweat dripping down his cheek. His legs are frozen in place, completely paralyzed by his crippling fear, when suddenly Sarah screams his name, rushing toward him in a panic, her hat flying off as she runs desperately to get to his side. And Toru is horrified to see her running straight into the line of fire. His resolve hardens as he vows to protect her, charging to intercept the monster. But the creature slashes him across the face, drawing blood as Sarah screams, and he collapses to the ground where she desperately tries to wake him. This massive golem looms over them both, raising its fists for a final, crushing blow. In a flash, Toru sees a vision of himself being impaled through the chest. As Sarah continues shaking his unconscious body, begging him to get up, his consciousness fades into a sea of blurry, ethereal lights, triggering a flashback to Sarah's past as a demon of the Mephisto tribe. She recalls that her magical power was the weakest among all the demons, and because of this weakness, she was constantly bullied by the others, leaving her feeling sad, lonely, and utterly miserable in her own world. Sarah recalls hearing a rumor about another world, watching others from a distance. Unsure if it was true, she found herself facing a terrifying spider-like monster. Learning the dungeon held creatures far stronger than even demons, and though she knew the risk, she still pushed forward to the other side. She arrived to find a massive serpent locked in battle with human warriors, getting caught in the crossfire and left injured on the war-torn ground. This pain in her heart was worse, feeling rejected by the world she'd risked all to reach. She realized that in the end, there was no place left for her anywhere. With that thought, the idea of her own death no longer seemed so scary, believing she could finally end her suffering right then and there. And as her consciousness faded, she felt a strange sense of relief. But at that moment, she let out a final, faint gasp, her vision slowly returning from the brink of total darkness. A young man appeared above her, determined to offer his help. Toru is shocked to find her there, and she looks up at him in disbelief. He reaches out his hand, telling her it is too dangerous to stay put. Her first thought is simply to question why he would bother to save her, because no one had ever shown her that kind of kindness before. She stares at his determined face, trying to understand his actions, even suspecting he might have some kind of hidden, selfish motive. Back in the present, Toru offers her a simple snack while she recovers, apologizing that it is only convenience store bread but hoping it helps. She takes the food from him, still bandaged and weak in bed. As she takes her first bite, a new feeling washes over her, and she is overcome with emotion, surprised by this simple act of care. A flashback from Sarah's perspective reveals her initial worries were unfounded, as Toru gave her a safe home filled with warm meals and kindness. She remembers the comfortable days where no one made fun of her, and for the first time in a long time, she was truly happy. Her only worry was his dangerous new job as a buster, because every time he returned from a dungeon, he was covered in wounds. She knew she could not stop him, not after monsters killed his mother, but she could not just stand by and watch him get hurt anymore. So if she could not stop him, she would support him instead. Even using the healing magic that had once been so traumatic for her, She remembers watching him fight, determined to keep him safe, because he was the first person who ever felt like home to her. She made a silent vow that she would protect him no matter the cost. Back in the present, she desperately tries to heal his fatal wound, ignoring the monster behind her, sensing it is wary of her demon nature. But as she places her hand on his chest, she realizes it is no good, his heart is destroyed. With tears streaming down her face, she vows she absolutely will not let him die, pouring all of her remaining power into one final command: "Live Toru." In a surreal moment, she gives him a final kiss, a transfer of life itself. Toru's eyes flutter open to see Sarah, and he asks what she did to save him. He is stunned as her form becomes translucent, passing right through his body, and he looks at his own hand in confusion, demanding to know what is happening. She explains the terrible truth: she gave her life to replace his destroyed heart. As she begins to fade away, she tells him she loves him and was truly happy. Her last words a tearful "thank you" as she disappears into light. Toru calls out her name in disbelief, tears streaming down his face. But the Cyclops is still there, looming over him with its fist raised. This monster smashes the ground, sending him flying from the impact. And he is shocked to see the fatal wound on his chest is already healing. Suddenly, a mysterious blue system window appears right before his eyes. It asks if he wants to form a contract with the demon Sarah, a final gift from her. He continues to fight, dodging the monster's relentless attacks, realizing that Sarah sacrificed her own life just to save him. He does not understand the details, but knows this is what she left for him, and without hesitation, he accepts the contract she offered. A brilliant golden aura erupts around him, filling him with new power. He can feel an incredible surge of energy flowing through his entire body. As another system window pops up with new information, a flash of light that quickly fades into the darkness. His stats have increased, granting him new defense and agility. This monster reels back as a wave of force explodes from Toru's body, followed by a powerful slash of glowing blue energy that cuts into its flesh. With a furious battle cry, he charges forward to press his attack. This monster seems stunned, caught off guard by his sudden power-up. He screams that he will not let it escape, his face a mask of rage, moving with incredible speed as he closes the distance in an instant. His blade connects with a deafening crash, shattering its defenses, and he follows up with a devastating kick right to its head. Hiyama watches from the ground, completely stunned by Toru's power. Realizing the rookie is now fighting the monster on equal terms, this other busters slowly get back on their feet as Hiyama tells them this is no time to be sleeping. Toru faces the Cyclops alone, dodging a massive, sweeping attack from the beast, knowing he has to turn the tables before his own stamina completely runs out. Suddenly, Hiyama calls out his name, getting his attention in the middle of the fight, and unleashes a massive fire spell, yelling for Toru to match his timing. This fiery blast slams into the monster, which growls as it endures the attack, its glowing red eye narrowing with rage, focusing on its next move. Seizing the opportunity, Toru leaps forward with a powerful battle cry, sword raised, bringing his sword down in a powerful arc that slashes across the monster's face. This blade connects, drawing blood and leaving a deep gash across the creature's eye, and the enraged Cyclops lets out a furious roar, preparing a devastating counterattack. But the monster stumbles backward, caught completely off guard by the sudden attack. His sword is now lodged deep within the creature's leg, pinning it down, and the beast looks down in annoyance at the blade stuck in its thigh. Seeing their chance, the other two busters rise to their feet, ready to attack. Toru launches himself into the air, preparing for a final decisive blow, as the monster's eye glows with an intense light, focusing all of its power. And his teammates cheer him on from the sidelines, urging him to finish it. His attack connects with devastating force, sending the massive beast crashing to the floor. Hiyama rushes to his side, calling out his name in concern as he lies on the ground, asking where he got that power, but Toru insists it was not his own. Suddenly, a strange, glowing blue notification screen materializes before his very eyes, announcing he has leveled up and acquired a new item, the Cyclops Blade. Toru stares in confusion at the message as Hiyama asks if he is all right, but he is lost in thought, wondering what is happening as his teammate calls his name. A voice screams his name as he drifts through the darkness, but Sarah's spirit appears, promising they will meet again someday. Toru's eyes snap open in a hospital bed, reaching for something that is not there. He laments that he can no longer see Sarah, though he desperately wants to. When her voice echoes in his mind, reassuring him that they can meet, she explains that because she became one with him, they will never be truly apart. His consciousness fades back into a deep, overwhelming blackness, and Toru jolts awake for real this time, confused and still in the hospital. A red-haired woman in a suit enters his room, relieved that he is finally conscious. He recognizes her as Kagamiya-san as she approaches with a fruit basket. She thanks him for his help in destroying the gate, but he seems bewildered. She explains the Buster Association confirmed the gate vanished right after they escaped. Afterward, the association made sure to treat all the surviving Busters, and those who were seriously injured were immediately hospitalized for their wounds. Meanwhile, others with minor injuries are already back to training hard. Toru quietly takes in all the information from his hospital bed. He tells her he is just glad that everyone who made it out is safe. Toru decides he needs to thank Hiyama, but Kagamiya-sen quickly stops him. He panics, asking if Hiyama is so badly hurt that he cannot even talk. But she explains his physical injuries are not the main problem, revealing that the veteran Buster is suffering from severe mental trauma. Hiyama is completely broken, having watched his friend Matsuda die right before his eyes. Toru and Kagamiya-san stand outside his room, watching the shattered veteran. Having explained everything, she prepares to leave and Toru thanks her for the update. He gives a weak smile, promising not to sneak out of the hospital. Toru decides to take some time to recuperate from his injuries. But he was not just sitting around doing nothing during his recovery. Instead, he sits outside the hospital, experimenting with a strange new power. Investigating the system window that appeared after the dungeon fight, he quickly learns a few things about this mysterious new ability, summoning a rental sword directly from his personal inventory. This window also seems to display his strength and numerical stats, and he recalls how his defense increased after Sarah's sacrifice, realizing he can grow stronger by raising these numbers, not just training. A nurse interrupts his thoughts, calling him for his examination. But she cannot see the system window he is pointing at, it is invisible to others. As they walk, she tells him he can be discharged tomorrow, and he resolves to master this new power that Sarah left for him. This sun sets on his quiet apartment building as he finally returns, but the home he enters now feels empty and silent without her. Looking at their photo, he realizes he is truly living alone for the first time, and as a new day dawns, life must somehow go on. He finds himself back at school, trying to return to a normal life. Sitting through class as the teacher talks about an upcoming test, his classmates invite him to eat lunch, pulling him back into his old routine, and the classroom buzzes with the familiar noise of students eating together. Though he finds their chatter distracting, he eats with them anyway. But his thoughts cannot help but drift back to Sarah's smiling face. Suddenly, a new notification pops up in his inventory, a dark temple key. This scene shifts to the school's gymnasium, hinting at what is to come. A mysterious, glowing door materializes in the empty gymnasium, catching Toru's eye, and he wonders if this strange portal is another part of the system window. Suddenly, a new notification screen appears right in front of his face, asking if he wants to use the dark temple key from his inventory. He remembers the key was an item that was automatically added earlier. And without a second thought, he presses yes on the glowing screen. An ornate golden key appears in his hand and he knows what he has to do. He steps forward and inserts the key into the lock on the mysterious door, which erupts in a flash of ominous red light as it rumbles open. And Toru stares in shock, recognizing it as a dangerous red gate. A new quest appears, ordering him to exterminate all the monsters inside. He understands that if he steps through that gate, a battle is waiting for him. Alone and without backup, he considers retreating from the unknown danger. But a vision of Sarah reminds him of her promise that they will meet again someday. His hesitation vanishes, his expression hardening with newfound resolve. He steps into a dark forest, but a tendril whips out from the shadows, snaring his leg and yanking him violently off his feet. He struggles against the glowing vine, realizing he is completely trapped. As a strange hissing sound echoes through the eerie woods, a monstrous tree with glowing red eyes looms over him, its roots holding him fast. Toru draws his sword, slicing through the tendril with a desperate cry, and he stumbles to the ground, finally breaking free from its grasp. With a furious shout, he readies his blade for a counterattack, dodging another whip-like vine that lashes out from the darkness. And he unleashes a powerful slash, cutting deep into the monster's limb. A massive vine whips past his face, startling him with its sudden speed, and he realizes the entire forest is alive with monstrous red-eyed trees. He leaps into the air, bringing his sword down in a powerful cleaving strike, landing smoothly as he dodges the relentless onslaught of tangled vines. But the creature's attacks are too numerous, catching him in a tangled mess. Yet the main body seems surprised by his sudden appearance before it. It raises a massive limb, preparing to crush him where he stands. But Toru smirks, taunting the beast for its slow, clumsy movements. He unleashes a blinding flurry of slashes, tearing into the monster's core, and the creature lets out a pained shriek as his blade finds its mark. He follows up with a powerful kick, shattering its wooden form. Suddenly, the familiar blue system window appears before him again, announcing he has leveled up and acquired a new item from the defeated monster. He confirms his theory. This system allows him to grow stronger by defeating enemies. He recalls following the system's instructions, which led him to the school gymnasium, where he discovered a mysterious, glowing red gate had materialized. Inside, he finds a desolate cavern, strangely empty of any monsters, when a winged, armored demon suddenly dives toward him from the darkness. And he barely has time to react as it closes the distance in an instant. This monster's attack sends him flying, the force of the blow staggering him. He feels the immense power in the strike, far greater than the last creature he fought. This demon circles around for another pass, its wings glowing with dark energy, leaving Toru struggling to regain his footing from the powerful gust. It prepares another attack, gathering a sphere of volatile magic in its claws, and unleashes a devastating blast of energy right at him. Toru grits his teeth, realizing he is completely on the defensive against this powerful foe. This monster's wings create powerful gusts of wind, constantly disrupting his stance. He desperately searches for a way to counter its overwhelming attacks. As the beast shatters the ground, forcing Toru to leap away from the impact, he decides to use the momentum, kicking off the cavern wall to reposition himself. With his sword held ready, he defiantly challenges the monster to bring it on. This winged demon accepts, lunging forward with a blur of purple energy. Toru is caught in the powerful gust, struggling to hold his ground against the force. He spots an opening in the chaos, preparing to strike at the perfect moment, but the creature unleashes a blinding flash of purple magic from its hand. This blast sends him tumbling backward, his vision completely whited out. He recalls the system window warning him about a vision impairment curse. Realizing the magic circle cursed him, he knows the situation is getting worse. This monster takes advantage, landing a brutal kick right to his head, and he is sent flying across the cavern, completely unable to defend himself. He knows he cannot win like this, vowing to overcome the curse on his sight. A single drop of sweat rolls down his face as he tries to regain his focus. He closes his eyes, deciding to rely on his other senses to fight back. With his eyes shut, he can feel the monster's presence looming over him. He tells himself to stay calm, focusing on sounds and the flow of air around him. This monster swings a glowing energy blade, testing his newfound awareness, and his sword shatters on impact, leaving him completely unarmed. Another blast of purple energy erupts at his feet, forcing him to jump back. This creature hovers in the air, watching its helpless prey from above. Desperate, Toru reaches for his system window, needing a new weapon immediately. A system window prompts him to synthesize the Cyclops blade and a wooden stick. And at that very moment, a new threat emerges, giving him a split-second choice. With the synthesis window still open, he is suddenly in a dark dungeon, unarmed and facing a powerful new monster. Knowing he has no time to hesitate, he immediately accepts the synthesis. He shouts in confusion as a brilliant light erupts before him, and the demonic creature recoils, growling at the sudden flash. Energy swirls violently as the two items begin to merge together, his eyes widening as he watches the process unfold before him. This system announces the synthesis is complete, creating a giant's knife. He processes the name of his powerful new weapon, just as the monster unleashes a massive beam of dark energy toward him. This creature channels its power into a devastating magical attack, which slams into the ground with overwhelming force, but its glowing red eye shows surprise as the dust settles. Toru has already dodged, charging forward with his new blade in hand, but the monster blocks his strike with its armored forearm, grunting from the impact. It immediately retaliates with a powerful, sweeping kick aimed right at him, sending our boy flying backward across the cavern floor. But the creature roars in pain as a dark slash cuts across its chest, drawing blood, and it stumbles to one knee, momentarily stunned by the unexpected blow. Seizing his chance, Toru grits his teeth and prepares for the final attack. He lunges forward, his blade a blur of motion as he unleashes another powerful slash, and he stands victorious, barely believing he defeated such a powerful enemy. Just then, another system window appears, catching him completely by surprise. A flurry of level-up notifications pop up, confirming the powerful foe gave him a massive boost. This system also announces he has acquired a magic stone, which is sent to his inventory, and he is confused by the new item, wondering what exactly a magic stone is. This system explains it is an escape item, making him realize this dungeon has different rules. Remembering his afternoon classes, he decides it is probably time to escape for now. But when he checks his phone, he is shocked to see it is only 1:05 p.m. He recalls leaving the classroom just past 1, realizing he should have been gone for an hour. But it seems time flows differently inside the gate, giving him a new idea. He thinks back on how he used one of the system's power synthesis to create the giant's knife and take down that powerful winged demon. Now he stands alone in the vast cavern, his new weapon glowing in the dim light. His expression hardening as he prepares for whatever lies ahead in the dungeon. At the far end of the cavern, he spots a massive, ornate door, the entrance to the deepest part. Even from a distance, he can sense an incredibly powerful presence waiting behind it. But he tells himself there is no use being scared, steeling his resolve to move forward. With a determined push, he forces the massive doors open, revealing a brilliant light inside. And as he steps through, he is immediately confronted by the leg of a giant figure. Looking up in utter disbelief, wondering if the person before him is actually human. A white-haired man in armor simply raises a finger, a blue magic circle swirling to life. And in the next instant, the massive doors slam shut right behind him. He whips around in a panic, realizing his only escape route has been sealed off, leaving him trapped with the mysterious figure, his face a mask of frustration. Suddenly, he flinches, an unseen force pressing down on him with immense power. As the white-haired swordsman looks on with a confident, almost cruel smirk, but Toru glares back, his eyes burning with defiance, ready for the fight to begin. Toru swings his massive blade with a shout, clashing against a new armored foe. But the white-haired warrior effortlessly parries the attack with a calm expression, and he sidesteps with incredible speed, leaving Toru completely stunned by his agility. This warrior lands a swift counter, striking Toru's shoulder with a sharp blow, sending our boy stumbling backward from the impact, struggling to keep his footing. As his opponent watches him, a confident smirk playing on his lips, this warrior taunts him, remarking that he is nothing more than a mere human. Toru is shocked, suddenly realizing he can understand what the monster is saying, remembering he could not understand Sarah, wondering if this is a new power. He questions if this ability is another gift that Sarah left behind for him, and testing his theory, he shouts back, demanding to know why he is attacking humans. This warrior's smirk widens as he considers Toru's question, and he introduces himself as Artemis, gathering blue energy in his hand. Artemis unleashes his power, shattering the ground and forcing Toru to scramble away. And with the exit blocked, he desperately opens his system to use a magic escape stone. But Artemis appears right behind him, mocking his attempt to flee the battle. In a blinding flash, his escape attempt is violently interrupted, and he realizes his desperate plan to escape the dungeon has failed. This reflection of a triumphant Artemis fills his vision, mocking his helplessness. Just before a massive explosion erupts, sending dust and debris flying everywhere, Toru is thrown to the ground, his clothes torn and his body bruised from the blast. Artemis stands over him, curiously asking why Toru did not finish him off earlier, seeming to ponder something as a strange blue energy gathers around him, enveloping his sword in a shimmering, magical aura. Toru grabs his opponent, demanding to know why he is being spared. A mysterious armored figure with glowing blue eyes appears before him, and Toru grunts in pain, completely caught off guard by this new opponent, who explains they have matched their power to his current skill level. Before releasing him with a powerful blast of blue energy, and Toru grits his teeth, frustrated by this sudden turn of events. This strange warrior smirks, taunting him for his obvious frustration, but Toru shouts back that he was fighting with his life on the line. His opponent simply laughs, amused by his anger and desperation, asking if he really challenged this dungeon without knowing the basics. They mock him, saying his reunion with Sarah is a distant dream at this rate, telling him to get stronger and come back to challenge them again. If he does, his reunion will happen, but Toru is just confused about the word summoner. Suddenly, a disembodied scream echoes through the space, and the world around him dissolves back into the school gymnasium. Toru groans as he finds himself lying on the hard wooden floor, jolting upright as he tries to get his bearings in a panic. He recognizes the gym, wondering if he has truly returned to the real world. Noticing the mysterious red gate has completely vanished from sight, he checks his body, shocked to find all his wounds have disappeared, and he opens his inventory, seeing the new items he acquired in the dungeon. His status window confirms his level is still up, meaning the battles were real, and a surge of purple energy gathers as he clenches his fist with resolve. With a look of pure determination, he knows what he has to do, vowing to get as strong as he possibly can. And he walks away, ready to face whatever comes next. Toru stands with a determined expression back in the real world. He vows to get stronger, telling someone to wait for him. A vision of Sarah's smiling face fills his mind as he calls out her name. He's been forcibly returned to the school gym by the dungeon boss, Artemis. Frustrated by his own weakness, a new idea begins to form in his mind. He walks through the familiar school hallway, lost in his thoughts. When a classmate snaps him out of it, glad to see he is finally back. He glances at his phone, the time showing it is mid-afternoon, but he cannot stop wondering what it means for Sarah to be a part of him now. He quickly makes an excuse to his friends, telling them he has to leave. His destination is the school gymnasium, the place where it all started. Toru walks with purpose, heading back toward the building alone. He cautiously peeks inside, his expression serious and focused. Ignoring the sounds of a basketball game, he walks past the court. This demon's taunt echoes in his memory, calling him a weakling, but he silently rejects the insult, his resolve hardening. He begins training immediately, running along the river to build his stamina. Finding a quiet spot, he summons the giant's knife from his inventory window. He grips the powerful new blade, testing its weight as he prepares to swing. With a shout, he practices a powerful slash, cutting through the air. He leaps into the air, bringing the sword down with explosive force. His eyes narrow with focus, he knows he has to get stronger. He decides to fully embrace the power of the system window, unleashing his full strength with a furious cry, driven to see Sarah again. He is also determined to protect everyone else from getting hurt. After a long night of intense training, Toru kneels in exhaustion when his phone suddenly buzzes in his pocket, catching his attention. He pulls it out to see a mass notification for all busters, detailing a C-rank black gate that has appeared in the city. He is surprised, realizing this is his first request above D-rank, and seeing it as a perfect training opportunity, he decides to go. Without hesitation, he accepts the monster extermination mission. He makes his way to the designated location in the city at night, arriving at a street where other busters have already gathered. Our boy takes in the scene, noticing quite a crowd has formed. He approaches a man with a clipboard to register for the extermination, who asks for his name and confirms his participation with a smile. This man, Sakurai, introduces himself as the mission leader. As Toru warms up, he scans the crowd but does not recognize anyone, but then his eyes widen as he spots a familiar face, a young man hopping over a nearby guardrail to join the group. He recognizes the blonde-haired boy he met previously. Toru recalls his intense training, driven by his goal to defeat Artemis, which was interrupted by the job request from the Buster Association. This request led him to the meeting point shown on the map, where he now stands among the other assembled busters. This boy approaches, glad to see Toru is okay after Matsuda's death. Toru is completely taken aback by the sudden reunion, admitting that he has not really recovered from the incident at all. His friend agrees, explaining he could not just stay home doing nothing. This blonde-haired man bows deeply, apologizing for his insensitive words, but Toru quickly insists that the fault was entirely his own. Hiyama looks at him with concern, hesitating before he speaks, suggesting Toru should take a break from being a buster to recover. Toru's expression hardens as he flatly refuses, saying he cannot stop, because if he does, everything a man named Matsuda did for him will be wasted. His eyes flare with a strange green light, fueled by intense emotion. Hiyama begins to tell his own story, flashing back to when he was younger, his eyes wide with terror as he remembers a horrifying event from his past. He explains that monsters found his family as they tried to escape the chaos, and he was paralyzed by fear as his parents were killed right before his eyes. But just then, a hero named Matsuda arrived, cutting down the beast. And he reached out a hand, asking the terrified boy if he could stand. Hiyama says he will never forget the gratitude he felt as Matsuda led him to safety. Later, in a shelter, Matsuda bowed his head to the young Hiyama, apologizing through tears that he could not protect the boy's family. Hiyama tried to console him, insisting it was not his fault at all, but Matsuda still felt responsible, even taking the orphan boy into his home. He remembers the happy times he had with his new family. And the kind, smiling face of the man who saved his life. Back in the present, Toru listens quietly, finally understanding his pain. Hiyama clenches his fist, vowing revenge for his family and for Matsuda's. He then turns to Toru, guessing they share a similar motivation for fighting. Toru looks him in the eye, confirming that he is exactly right. Hiyama smiles and ruffles his hair, noting he looks much better now. A new acquaintance asks Toru if his entire demeanor has changed recently. Remarking how he was once terrified of a simple orc during their first meeting. Suddenly, a woman appears, calling out to the blonde-haired man, Yasuke, who flinches in annoyance as Toru looks on in confusion. Yasuke awkwardly asks Toru if the woman is his girlfriend, clearly flustered. But she angrily denies it, demanding to know if he is even listening to her. He leans in and whispers to Toru that she is actually Matsuda-san's wife. And Toru recalls hearing about the man's tragic and painful past. He understands that everyone has their own reasons for becoming a buster. Hiyama explains he lives with her, but she constantly begs him to quit dungeons. He sighs, trying to reassure her that he is paying attention to her words, as she pleads with him to quit being a buster and get a normal job instead. Another man joins the group, questioning why Hiyama is trying to enter a gate again. Hiyama's expression hardens as he explains he needs to get revenge for others. This woman breaks down in tears, revealing she has already lost her child and husband, and she cannot stand the thought of losing him too, her only remaining family. Toru watches the emotional scene, realizing Hiyama's situation is very complicated. A sharp clap cuts through the tension, drawing everyone's attention, and their raid leader announces it is almost time for them to depart. Hiyama notes the leader's personality, having been specifically called out by name. This team stands before a glowing blue gate, ready to enter one by one. Toru asks a teammate if Hiyama and the woman Sakurai have some history together. Sakurai grabs Hiyama's arm, desperately trying to stop him from leaving, but he shoves her away, telling her to leave him alone since his mind is made up. He turns to his teammate, telling him it is time to go, leaving Sakurai behind. A worried woman confronts Toru on the street, her expression filled with anxiety. As a flashback shows a man reassuring someone about a mission with veteran busters. This woman asks who he is, and Toru introduces himself as Sejima, revealing he was on her late husband's team, which brings tears to her eyes. He explains that while the opponent was too strong then, it will not happen again. And as he vows to support a man named Hiyama, she is overcome with emotion. She suddenly grabs his hands, catching him completely by surprise. She says her husband told her he only made it home because Toru was there for him. Deeply moved by her words, Toru gives a firm, heartfelt response. A new man, Sakurai, introduces himself as the B-rank buster leading the mission, and with a shout he leads the team toward a massive, glowing blue gate. This woman watches with concern as Toru and a blonde man walk toward the portal. This blonde man, Hiyama, glances back with a look of pure disdain. Her face is etched with worry as she watches them go, and Hiyama steps into the swirling vortex of the gate without hesitation. Inside, Sakurai warns the team to stay alert as they advance through a dense forest. Toru walks beside Hiyama, questioning where exactly they are, and Hiyama realizes this is Toru's first time inside a gate. Toru is shocked to learn they are in another world, and Hiyama mockingly offers a tour. He recalls his promise to the widow to support Hiyama no matter what. He remembers entering the Black Gate with Hiyama and the other busters. Hiyama snaps him out of his thoughts, demanding to know if he is listening. Toru apologizes, but Hiyama tells him to focus on the mission briefing. He is stunned to learn a shocking new fact that monsters can open gates themselves. Hiyama explains that if left alone, these gates run out of power and vanish in a month. Hiyama explains that while the gate is open, monsters can freely enter their world, but the real problem is finding the specific monster that opened it, a search that could take days. He then teases Toru, asking if he is worried about being away from his girlfriend, and Toru flusters, shouting that it is not like that while Hiyama just laughs. Getting serious, Hiyama warns him the target is a boss-level threat, and if he finds it, he must alert the team instead of fighting alone. After hours of searching, they still have not found their target, but the search area is shrinking. Their leader, Sakurai, announces they will make camp for the night and resume tomorrow. With a sharp clap, he dismisses the team to get to work setting up. Hiyama grumbles about Sakurai's condescending attitude as Toru tries to calm him down. Toru quickly changes the subject, excited that they are on the cooking team together. Hiyama agrees, and they head off to get ingredients from the food team. As they begin preparing the meal, Toru finds himself lost in thought. Realizing it has been a long time since he has done something so normal, he wonders when he last cooked a meal with someone like this. And as he serves a bowl of stew, a warm memory surfaces, a vision of Sarah smiling happily as she ate his food. He remembers the playful, happy days they spent together at home, and it hits him that Sarah originally came from this very world. He looks over at Hiyama, wondering if she also shared meals like this with her family. Later that night, Toru lies awake, his mind racing with thoughts. He reflects on the day's events, entering the gate and arriving in Sarah's homeland. He pulls up his system window, checking his current stats and level. His class is still listed as Novice Buster, which makes him question its meaning, wondering if he keeps leveling up will it finally change to Summoner. This mission leader, Sakurai, greets the team with a confident smile, but Toru quips that just seeing his face brings the fatigue right back. Sakurai ignores him, announcing they will split into 2 teams for the search. He proudly declares himself the leader of Team A, promising his members an easy time, and Hiyama quietly hopes he is not on that team as Sakurai prepares to name the other leader, who he suddenly appoints as the leader of Team B, much to Hiyama's shock. Hiyama immediately protests, demanding to know why he was chosen for the role. With a condescending smirk, Sakurai says he is the next best option despite his flaws. Hiyama complains to Toru that the guy needlessly views him as a rival, leaving our boy looking on with a confused expression. As he tries to process this unexpected dynamic, he recalls Sakurai's plan to split them into 2 separate teams. Toru asks Hiyama directly if he and Sakurai are actually rivals. Hiyama explains they started as busters around the same time, often crossing paths, and that Sakurai is incredibly vain, always trying to outdo him at every turn. Toru asks if this is the quirk he mentioned, but Hiyama says it is just the beginning. Just then, Sakurai points at them, shouting that private conversations are forbidden, and he warns them not to disrupt his command with a serious glare. He dismisses them, turning his attention to the members of Team. Toru is surprised to see they are all women, looking more like an idol group than busters. Hiyama sighs, saying he expected this, leaving Toru completely confused. He explains that Sakurai personally hired those women with his own money, making them his lackeys. It is not Sakurai who is rich, but his father, making this all just a hobby for him. Toru processes this new information as they walk away from the group, but Sakurai glares at them again, furious they are still ignoring his orders. But a green-haired buster argues with Hiyama, saying he is Team B's leader, and he is told to stop making excuses and just lead his team on the search. So Hiyama reluctantly gathers his own group, Team B, and prepares to move out. He gives Toru a parting word of encouragement, telling him to hang in there. Toru sighs as his own group, Team A, is ordered to depart as well, and a teammate asks their leader, Sakurai, which area they will be searching. Toru watches the exchange, his face filled with nothing but anxiety, especially as Sakurai seems more interested in charming the female busters. Several hours pass and they have only found low-level monsters, not their target. With the sun setting, Toru worries they will not find it today, and he starts to wonder how they are even supposed to identify the target monster. Suddenly, one of his teammates' eyes go wide with alarm, and she shouts for everyone to dive into the bushes for cover. Sakurai quickly orders the rest of the team to follow her lead and hide. Toru, completely confused, asks another buster what is going on, but the man just shoves his head down, telling him to be quiet and hide. From their hiding spot, Sakurai confirms that they have found their target. Toru whispers, asking how he can be so sure, earning an angry glare. Other members of the team look back, annoyed by his question. He apologizes, admitting it is his first time in another world's territory. And Sakurai explains the target is a shadowy knight, proof that it is undead. Toru is stunned by the revelation, questioning what undead even means. For some reason, the sight of the creature fills him with a strange feeling. He recalls being separated from Hiyama and assigned to Team A. He asks if it is true that some monsters can revive after being killed. Hiyama explains that only certain undead monsters can use gate-opening magic. And Toru finds it strangely sad, even if they are just monsters. Their leader, Sakurai, suddenly interrupts, scolding Toru for not paying attention, and he threatens to have Toru's buster license revoked for disrespecting him. Toru quickly apologizes, promising to be more careful from now on. Sakurai then begins to lay out their strategy against a spectral knight on horseback, assigning 2 female members, Mari and Yui, to the rear guard, where they will provide support for the frontline fighters. These 2 girls smile, readily accepting their assigned roles. He then calls out the names of 2 other women, Asuka and Riene, assigning them and Toru to the front line to draw the enemy's attacks. Sakurai confirms their only job is to act as decoys for him, boasting that he is the only one strong enough to land the final blow. Toru questions the plan, arguing it is too risky with only one attacker. But Sakurai violently grabs him by the collar, cutting him off. He glares menacingly, warning Toru not to question him again, declaring that in this dungeon he is the absolute authority. His orders are law. If he says die, Toru must die without question. Toru is left speechless, finally understanding the situation he is in. He recalls Hiyama's earlier warning about the leader's difficult personality, realizing this is the exact quirk his friend was talking about. Sakurai gives the signal. They attack after the target takes 3 more steps. This spectral knight's horse takes its first heavy step forward, and as it takes its second, Toru tightens his grip on his sword, and on the 3rd step, the entire team leaps into a coordinated assault. This spectral knight lunges forward, its spear glowing with a deadly purple light, but Toru grits his teeth, barely managing to block the devastating blow. This sheer force of the impact sends him skidding backward across the ground, his hands trembling as he realizes the monster's incredible strength. Suddenly, a fireball slams into the knight from the side, catching it off guard. As the other decoys, Asuka and Riene, rush in to support him. This knight's helmet flashes with a menacing red glow, its focus shifting, and Toru senses the change, screaming for everyone to get away. He watches in shock as a magical tornado begins to form around the beast. With a single swing of its weapon, it unleashes a powerful wave of energy, instantly knocking both of the female busters off their feet. Toru cries out their names in horror as they are thrown to the ground, defeated. This knight begins gathering an even more intense magical power, unleashing a barrage of purple energy projectiles across the battlefield. Our boy dives for cover, the magical blasts exploding all around him. He realizes this undead creature can use its powerful magic without tiring. This monster turns its attention back to Toru, who now stands alone. A faint voice echoes from within the armor, pleading for him to kill it. Toru is completely stunned, wondering if it truly wants to die. He shouts back that if it wants to be killed, it should stop fighting back. But the knight only responds by gathering more power, its horse rearing up. And in that moment, Toru finally understands the creature's true desire. It does not just want death, it wants a true defeat from a worthy opponent. He glances at his fallen teammates, the situation looking hopeless, and wonders how they could possibly defeat a monster with such power. A female buster, Mihara, glares at Sakurai, furious about his earlier actions. She unleashes a powerful stream of fire at the spectral knight, but the creature is completely unfazed by the magical assault. Casually deflecting the flames with its massive shield, taking no damage. Toru watches in disbelief, stunned that the attack had no effect at all. He then recognizes the ominous purple glow of a cursed magic circle, and suddenly Mihara conjures another fireball in her hand, turning to blast her own leader, Sakurai, sending him flying back. Sakurai hits the ground hard, shocked by the sudden betrayal from his teammate. His expression darkens as he realizes the gravity of the situation. He shouts at Toru, demanding to know what is going on with their ally. Toru explains that Mihara has been cursed by the enemy and lost her mind. Sakurai's face hardens, understanding the terrible truth of their predicament. He tells Toru there is no other choice, warning him to be careful now. This cursed Mihara prepares another attack, her eyes glowing with malice, but Sakurai moves first, cutting her down with a single decisive slash. Toru is frozen in horror, his face splattered with her blood. He rushes to Mihara's side as she collapses onto the forest floor. He begs her to hold on, promising to get the team's healer for her. He looks down at his hand, now completely soaked in her blood. In a chilling moment, he realizes she has already stopped breathing. Sakurai urgently warns him that the knight is closing in on them. This spectral knight charges forward, its spear aimed directly at Toru. Paralyzed by shock and grief, Toru can only watch it approach. But just then, another teammate leaps in front of him, blocking the deadly blow. One of the female busters leaps into action, her weapon glowing with purple energy. As Yui rushes to Sakurai's side, asking if he is hurt, but he brushes it off. He coldly explains that Mari was cursed, forcing him to cut her down himself. And Toru explodes in anger, unable to believe Sakurai killed his own teammate so calmly. But another woman remarks that they are not just here as his lackeys for free, adding that their pay already accounts for the very real risk of dying. Even Yui confirms that Mari knew the risks and had accepted her potential fate. Toru is utterly horrified, unable to comprehend being paid enough to accept death. Just then, the spectral knight lets out a cry, drawing everyone's attention back to the fight. Its weapon connects with incredible force, sending Sakurai flying through the air. But he roars with defiance, refusing to be taken down so easily, and lands a powerful blow, his sword clashing against the knight's dark armor. Yui cheers from the sidelines, praising her leader for landing such a powerful blow. But the knight retaliates, its shadowy hand reaching right for Sakurai's face, and unleashes a blast of dark magic as his teammates shout a desperate warning. This blast misses its target, striking Yui and trapping her in magical bindings. Sakurai turns in horror, screaming her name as he sees what just happened. Her eyes turn cold and lifeless, questioning her own name as the curse takes hold. It is the undead's magic, a curse that corrupts the mind of its victim. This same sinister energy that struck Mari now consumes Yui, sealing her fate. Sakurai screams at the cursed Yui, demanding to know why she is healing the enemy. Realizing it is the same curse that took Mari, Yui has lost her sanity. This spectral knight now stands beside its new puppet, shrouded in an eerie mist. Sakurai quickly forms a new plan, declaring he will take the boss's head himself, and then turns to Toru, ordering him to kill their now cursed comrade, Yui. Toru is completely stunned by the leader's brutal command, but Sakurai just sneers, saying a controlled teammate is already dead, and he presses a blade to Toru's throat, telling him to obey or die. With the threat made clear, he orders the front line to move out, and the decoys rush forward, charging the spectral knight head-on. This undead creature immediately prepares a powerful counterattack, as one of the women vows not to let it unleash its magic. She lunges in, aiming to disrupt the spell before it is fully cast, her blade clashing hard against the knight's spectral armor. Together, the decoys pin the monster, shouting for Sakurai to attack. Sakurai leaps in for the final blow, ready to end the fight, but the knight tightens its grip, refusing to go down so easily. With a powerful swing of its weapon, it sends the entire front line flying, and one of the women crashes hard against a tree, crying out in pain. She looks up in a daze, her eyes wide with shock and confusion, as a strange vision of a man and a young girl fills her mind. In the memory, the man is suddenly struck by a blinding flash of light. Toru realizes the knight's magic is affecting his teammate's sanity. Just then, the dazed woman lunges at him from behind, and he barely manages to parry her unexpected, frenzied attack. Her eyes are unfocused as she calls out another person's name, and Toru tries to reason with her, telling her to lower her weapon. But she does not seem to hear him, her gaze remaining cold and empty. Left with no other choice, he is forced to strike her down to defend himself. Sakurai glares at him, angrily demanding to know why he is stalling. Sakurai explains that every attack they land is instantly healed by Yui, and he orders Toru to find an opening and kill their cursed teammate. But Toru is frozen, remembering he never became a buster to hurt anyone. Just then, the spectral knight impales another buster with its spear. Toru grits his teeth, paralyzed by the brutal command and the chaos. Another teammate is cut down by a vicious slash from the undead creature. As the knight begins gathering another sphere of dark magical energy, it takes a heavy step forward, its presence overwhelming the battlefield. Sakurai screams at Toru, furious that he is still refusing to kill Yui. Toru argues back, saying they should attack the knight together instead, pointing out that with his injured leg, Sakurai will not last much longer. In a shocking move, Sakurai grabs the hair of a fallen teammate and hurls her body directly at the spectral knight as a distraction. Toru watches in horror as his leader uses a comrade's corpse as a tool, and Sakurai uses the opening to leap forward for a decisive strike. He roars that he will not give up his prey, his eyes wild with obsession. With a powerful downward slash, he brings his sword crashing down, his face a mask of pure, desperate determination to win, but his expression quickly shifts to one of utter shock and disbelief. This spectral knight now holds a massive sphere of curse magic in its hand. Toru screams a desperate warning for Sakurai to dodge the attack, but it is too late. Dark tendrils erupt, engulfing the team leader in agony. One of the women recalls how Sakurai ruthlessly cut down his own comrades, and Toru remembers the cold order to kill Yui just moments before. His resolve hardens, reaffirming he will not become a killer like his leader. Sakurai screams as the knight's dark magic erupts from his body, and just like that, he too falls victim to the undead's curse. Toru can only stare in shock, calling out his leader's name, but Sakurai just turns, his expression now cold and menacing. In a flash of horror, Toru understands what has happened. This newly cursed leader immediately attacks, swinging his sword at Toru, who struggles to block, realizing he is the only sane one left. This spectral knight watches its new puppet with satisfaction, before leaping through the air to rejoin the chaotic battle. Toru curses, completely overwhelmed by the impossible odds, and the knight lands a devastating blow, sending him reeling back. He recovers, lunging forward with his own glowing red blade, only to see the cursed Yui healing the spectral knight. For a moment, he considers retreating to observe the situation, but the knight's glowing eyes seem to demand a true defeat. He recalls the theory that these undead seek salvation on Earth, and Sakurai's chilling words echo in his mind. A justification for what he was about to do, that killing a controlled person does not make you a murderer. He even remembers Yui saying Mari had accepted this very fate, and his hand tightens around his sword, his resolve hardening. He has to end this now to prevent anyone else from getting hurt. With a desperate roar, he charges toward his cursed teammates, but a hand suddenly grabs his arm, stopping him mid-lunge. Thrown off balance, Toru crashes to the ground, stunned by the intervention. Just as Toru despairs, Hiyama suddenly appears before him, and he coldly states that a murder here would go unpunished. But Toru knows the guilt would haunt him for the rest of his life. With tears in his eyes, he admits he sees no other way to win, until a gentle hand rests on his head, startling him, and Hiyama tells him not to carry the burden all by himself. Overwhelmed with emotion, Toru can only sniffle in response, as another teammate announces that it is time for them to move. When asked where they are going, the answer is painfully obvious. Hiyama shouts for a tactical retreat, pulling Toru to his feet. Toru protests, worried about leaving Sakurai and the monster behind, but Hiyama's determined gaze shows there is no room for argument. This small group of survivors flees through the misty forest, finally stopping when Hiyama declares they are safe for the moment. He then grimly admits that with their numbers, fighting is impossible. Revealing that the rest of their comrades were all taken down, Toru recalls that in his rage he tried to attack the crazed Sakurai, but Hiyama had thankfully managed to stop him just in time. Back in the present, Hiyama looks away, clearly uncomfortable, and begins to explain how his own Team B also faced the knight. This creature's power was overwhelming, taking out 2 members instantly, causing the rest to panic and fight recklessly, leading to a curse. This knight's sinister purple magic spread through their ranks, and they were forced to flee, leaving their cursed allies behind. They were searching for anyone to regroup with when they found Toru. A flashback reveals a tense confrontation, explaining how Toru was found, and back in the present, Toru quietly processes this information. One of the survivors claps his hands, asking the small group for their next move. He quickly reviews their disastrous situation. 3 members, including Sakurai, are now puppets. Of the remaining 9, 5 are down, leaving only 4 of them left to fight. Another buster argues they must retreat to the gate or risk being completely wiped out. This acting leader turns to Toru, asking for his opinion on the matter. But Toru knows if they leave, the knight could escape and unleash more monsters. He is also consumed with worry for their cursed teammates who cannot last long. This others try to calm him down, insisting now is not the time for infighting. They decide to head back to the gate to regroup and figure out a new plan. But just as they turn to leave, Toru senses a new presence nearby. A mysterious woman with red eyes and dark clothes leaning silently against a tree. This team is stunned, wondering what a normal person is doing here until they see her fangs. They realize she is not human at all, but another monster in disguise. One of the busters immediately draws his sword, declaring they have to take her down. This vampire-like woman looks startled by the sudden show of aggression, and she quickly turns to flee, leaving the busters momentarily confused. Toru quickly stops his teammate, insisting he senses no hostility from her. He calls out to the woman, telling her to wait and that they mean no harm. This others are shocked when she actually stops, asking how Toru can speak her language. Toru explains that Sarah's translation magic allows him to understand simple monster speech. He tells them to hold back, offering to act as an interpreter to hear her out. These four survivors stand opposite the lone woman, the tension hanging in the air. Toru steps forward, introduces himself, and asks for the mysterious woman's name. This mysterious woman introduces herself as Vivian, a vampire. Toru is stunned by the revelation as Hiyama asks what she said. He recalls Sarah's warning that even non-hostile monsters can be a threat, and Hiyama impatiently shakes him, demanding he translate for the group. Toru finally translates her words, leaving Hiyama completely stunned. This others realize that vampires are skilled in dark magic and curses, and they urge Toru to ask her if she knows how to break it. Toru explains their desperate situation, asking if she knows how to break the undead's curse. She asks who they are, and he explains their mission to defeat the undead and close the gate. He pleads with her, saying they need to restore their comrade's sanity to win, and to his shock she confirms that she can tell them how to break it. He excitedly relays the good news to Hiyama, who praises his efforts, but her help comes with a single, non-negotiable condition. Toru's hope immediately turns to apprehension, sensing a catch. He asks what she wants in return for this vital information. And Vivian reveals her one desire is to be taken to their world.